Hi, second graders, it's Mrs. Seals. I'm back for our third science lab of the school year. So the past couple weeks, we've been talking about these words, physical properties. So remember, physical properties are different ways we can describe objects, such as color, size, shape, texture, flexibility. Last week, we talked about the state of matter, which means whether something is a solid or a liquid when we made the oobleck. Today we're going to be talking about a physical property called temperature, which means how hot or cold something is. Okay, so you have two targets today. One says I can collect, record, and compare information using tools, including thermometers. So I'm going to be showing you how we use thermometers to measure temperature. And then your second target says, I can classify matter by physical properties, including relative temperature. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. All right, so this says temperature, and then I have your two targets listed again. I can collect, record, and compare information using tools, including thermometers, and I can classify matter by physical properties, including relative temperature. So first we need to find out, what is temperature? Temperature is a measure of how hot or how cold something is. We see temperature being measured or taken in many places in our day-to-day lives. Can you think of where we see temperature being taken? So I'm going to pause for just a second. I want you to think about things that you see or do in your day-to-day life where temperature is being measured or taken. And then on the next page, we're going to talk about a couple of those, okay? See what you can think of. Here are some common places where we see temperature being taken. There are a lot more. Maybe you thought of some ones I'm not going to name, but I'm going to name a couple most common places we see the temperature being taken. On our oven or stove. If you ever help your mom or dad bake or cook and you follow a recipe, it'll tell you, to heat your oven to 400 degrees or heat your oven to 350 degrees. That's because you need to make sure your temperature gets, or your oven gets to a certain temperature in order to be able to cook whatever it is all the way. So we take temperature when we're cooking. This is called a thermostat. You might have one of these or something that looks very similar on the wall of your house or your apartment. And this tells you the temperature of the air inside. So this is saying that it's 70 degrees inside. And then if it's too warm or too cool, you can adjust it with these arrows. So we measure the temperature of our homes. Okay, this is a thermometer that goes in your mouth. If you know that if you say that you're sick or you don't feel well and you go to the nurse or the doctor, the very first thing they do is they use a thermometer like this to measure the temperature of your body, because that can tell them if something's wrong. There's a normal temperature where our bodies should usually be at, and if it's hotter or cooler than that, that could tell us that we might be sick or something might be wrong. Okay, we measure the temperature when we are talking about weather. So this is showing the high temperature and the low temperature for a week period. And that this is referring to the outside air. And then we measure the temperature again when we're cooking. This is called a meat thermometer. And if you're cooking like beef or chicken or pork, you have to make sure that it gets cooked to a certain temperature so that people don't get sick. And that's what this does. You put it in the whatever meat you're cooking, and it tells you the temperature of it. So these are some of the most common places we measure temperature. Of course, like I said, there are many others. How is temperature measured? Temperature is measured by using a thermometer. Thermometers can look different, but they all do the same thing, which is measure temperature. Here are some different types of thermometers. Notice that they all look different, but again, they all have the same job, which is to measure temperature. Maybe they're measuring the outside air, maybe they're measuring a body temperature, maybe they're measuring the temperature in the classroom. All right, but they all do the same thing. How is temperature measured? So here's a picture of a thermometer, and it says there are two main scales for measuring temperature. These are Fahrenheit and Celsius. The F at the bottom tells you that this side of the thermometer is measuring in Fahrenheit. You see the F down there? So these numbers over here are telling us the temperature in Fahrenheit. The C at the bottom tells you this side of the thermometer is measuring in Celsius. Temperature is recorded like this: 76 degrees Fahrenheit or 23 degrees Celsius. The little circle at the top of the number is a symbol, is a symbol that means degrees. So a lot of times, when we're writing or drawing, we use symbols to represent other things, or like in math, we use a lot of symbols. Instead of writing out the word degrees every time, you can use this little circle, and that represents degrees. So which one do we use? In the United States, where we live, typically Fahrenheit is used. For example, if you listen to the weather report in the morning and they say it's going to be 98 degrees, they're using Fahrenheit. In the United States, Fahrenheit is used, okay? However, pretty much in the rest of the entire world, with the exception with a couple other countries, Celsius is used. Scientists everywhere use Celsius. So since we are in the science lab, we're going to be using Celsius. Now I know what you're saying. You're probably thinking, Miss Seals, but we're in the United States. You already said we use Fahrenheit. Yes, however, scientists, even in the United States, use Celsius, and here's why. A lot of times scientists, when they do an experiment, after they do it, they write up what's called a lab report or a conclusion, all right? And this tells what they did in their experiment, what the results of their experiment were. And then other scientists read their lab reports or their conclusions to learn about their experiment. So scientists everywhere in the world use Celsius. That way, when one scientist from one country is reading the lab report of a scientist from another country, they don't have to wonder, oh, was this scientist using Fahrenheit or Celsius? They don't have to worry about that because they know it's all the same. They're all using Celsius. So it just makes it easier for scientists to be able to exchange information and to share their research and all of those things, all right? So we are in the science lab, we are scientists, we use Celsius. So how does a thermometer work? Good question, Miss Seals. Here's a picture of the type of thermometer we use here in the science lab at Pershing Park. And it says, when things get heated up, the molecules inside start to move faster and faster. When the red liquid in the bottom of the thermometer gets heated up and the molecules start to move faster and faster, it causes the red line to go up. The hotter it is, the further up that red line will go. All right, do you see this? So when this part down here gets heated up, the molecules inside start moving and moving and moving, and that causes this red line to go up. All right. When things cool off, the molecules slow down. This causes the red line to go down. The colder it is, the further down that red line will go. So the hotter it is, the further it goes up. The colder it is, the further it goes down. How to use and read a thermometer. The thermometer is going to show the temperature of wherever that red bulb at the bottom is. So for example, this thermometer right now that I'm holding in my hand, this red bulb is just showing me the air temperature of the science lab because I don't have this red bulb into a cup of water or anything else. It's just telling me what the air is. If I want to read the temperature of a cup of water, I have to set the thermometer in and count to about 10 in my head. This gives the red line time to move up or down, depending on if the water is hotter or colder than the air in the science lab. I know that's a lot. I'm going to show you this in just a minute, okay? When it's time to read the temperature, I'm going to get down at eye level and read the thermometer while it's still in the water. If I take the red line out, if I take the thermometer out, the red line will move and adjust again. I'll show you that in a second too, okay? All right, so here's a close-up. It says after the red line stops moving, find the line it is the closest to. So let me show you, let me label. On this thermometer, the F and the C are up at the top so you can't see, but this side is Fahrenheit. I'll put an F over here. And this side is Celsius, so I'll put a C over here. All right. You may have to skip count. On this thermometer, on the Fahrenheit side, you have to count by twos. I know this because there are only 4 small dashes between each large number. Each line represents 2 degrees. So what I mean by that is look right here. Do you see this thick black line that says 80? Now notice here is 90. So there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 lines in between 80 and 90. Are there more than 4 numbers between 80 and 90? There are. So so that tells me right there we're going to have to skip count. So look, if I skip count by twos, I go 80, 82, 84, 86, 88, 90. So this thermometer is showing that it's 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Do you see how the red line is equal with that line that says 90? All right, let's try the Celsius side together. What do you count by on the Celsius side of this thermometer? So I'm going to give you a second to see if you can figure out what you need to count by on this Celsius side. Or in other words, what do each of these lines represent? Okay, I'll give you a second to look. There's 20, there's 30. See if you can figure out what we need to skip count by, or if we need to skip count at all. Maybe we don't. All right, what do you think? Ones, you are exactly right. You can tell because there are 9 little dashes between each large number. Each line is 1 degree. So on the Celsius side of this thermometer, you don't have to skip count. Each of those little tiny lines represents 1 degree. Okay, so for example, that big line right there is 20. Then we have 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So on the Fahrenheit side, you have to skip count by twos. On the Celsius side, you don't have to skip count. You can just count by ones. So what is the temperature in degrees Celsius? So look at this side of the thermometer. Find the top of the red line and which line it matches up to. I'll give you a second to look closely. All right, what do you think? I heard lots of 32 degrees Celsius. Very good, because then again, that line is 30. Then I count 31, 32. So this temperature or this thermometer is showing 32 degrees Celsius. Make sure that you can't just say 32. Remember, in math or science, we always have to label our numbers if we're measuring. If we say 32, somebody won't know what we're talking about. So we have to label it 32 degrees and then the C for Celsius. Good job. All right, so we're going to do some more practicing. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to do our best, okay? This would be much easier to do if you were here in the science lab with me. Since we're learning virtually, we're going to do the best we can, all right? So I have a thermometer here, and it's just the same kind you just saw in the picture. And I also have a cup of cold water that's been in the refrigerator. I have a cup of room temperature water, which means it hasn't been cooled off or heated up. It's just the temperature of the classroom pretty much. And, excuse me, I have a cup of warm water, which is water that has been heated up. So for each one, I'm going to put it in the water. I'm going to show you so that you can see the red line moving. And then we're going to see if we can figure out what the temperature is showing on the thermometer. Okay, so I'm going to do the room temperature water first. So remember what I told you. I said that if I want to know the temperature of the water, I'm going to put the thermometer in and I'm going to let it set for about 10 seconds. That way it gives that red line a chance to move. Because especially if this water is very, very cold or very, very hot, that red line needs to move up or down. It might take a while. So I'm going to count to about 10. Then when it's time for me to check the temperature, I'm not going to pull the thermometer out and look at it, because then it's going to start moving again to tell me the temperature of the air in the classroom. I don't want to know that. I want to know the temperature of the water. So I'm going to keep it in the cup as I try to look at it. Okay? So I'm going to carefully set it in. I'm going to hold it to where hopefully you can see. Can you see the red line? Kinda, right? You see right there? I'm going to count to about 10. Give it a chance to move. All right, when it's time for me to check it, I'm going to keep it in the water. Whoops. And I'm going to look and see. And remember, we're using Celsius. Okay. I'm going to see if you can see it. Do you see that? Oh, there we go. So Celsius is this side with the 20 and the 30. Hold on, that's hard for you to see. There we go, that's a little bit better. Can you read what the temperature is? Remember, on the Celsius side, we don't have to skip count, just count by ones. So there's 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So we would say the temperature of the room temperature water is about 26 degrees Celsius. And then we can practice writing that. Like 26 degrees Celsius. So I put my number, I put my symbol for degrees, and then I put a C for Celsius. Good job. All right, you want to do another one together? This time we're going to do the cold water. So this is water that has been in the refrigerator. It's been cooled off, okay? So do you think that this water, do you think the red line is going to go up or down when I put it in the cold water? You think down? I agree with you, because we said the colder something is, the further down that red line goes. All right, let me get the, all right, here we go. Let me get the cold water. Let me get it maybe to where you can see. As long as that red bulb in the bottom is in the water, we're good. Ooh, do you see it moving down? Remember, it was at 26 before. Now it's below 20. We're going to count to about 10 before we read it. Give it a chance to move. Oh, it's still moving. Look at it. All right. What do you think? We're looking at Celsius, which is the side with the 10, 20, 30. It looks like it's right below 20. So what's 1 below 20? 19. Very good. So the cold water is showing 19 degrees Celsius. Who thinks they can show me how or tell me how to write that? 19 degrees Celsius. I need my number first. Good. That's 19. Then am I done? It's 19? No. What else do I need? I need to label my number. My symbol for degrees. Good. And then a C for Celsius. So this says 19 degrees Celsius. Very good. All right, we're going to do one more together. And this is the warm water. So it's not super duper hot. It has been warmed up a little bit. So is that red line going to go up or down? What do you think? You think up? I agree with you because this water is warmer, and we said when things are warm, that red line goes up. Let me see if I can do this to where you can see. This is kind of warm. Whoa, look at that red line. Do you see it going up? It's still going. Oh my goodness. It went up pretty fast, didn't it? That must mean this water is very warm. It's a lot warmer than the air temperature. Count to 10, give it a second to stop moving. All right, what do you think? Look at this side. This is Celsius. It's still in the water. I'm not going to pull it out because I don't want to know the air temperature. I want to know the water temperature. So there's 70, and then on the Celsius side, we don't have to skip count. 71, almost to 72. It looks like it's, well, it looks like it's going down. Yeah, so about 71 degrees Celsius. Does everyone see how I got 71? There's 70, and it's just one little line above that, 71. All right, so let's write that. Who can tell me how to write 71 degrees Celsius? Good, I need my number first, my degrees symbol. Whoops, I almost wrote the wrong thing. The seals. 71 degrees Celsius. Very good. You guys did awesome with temperature and thermometers today. I hope that you had fun, and I will see you next time in the science lab. Bye, guys.